Wait, don't go. Don't go. We have people here to talk to you about this amazing movie. Hey, everybody. I'm Melissa Silverstein. I'm the artistic director and co-founder of the festival, and we have two guests to talk about this amazing movie. I cried again and I laughed again. Davina Parter, one of the directors, and Marcella Steingart, the producer. You know, God, she is the best.
She's pretty good.
Oh my goodness, I forgot how cool she is. Tell us a little bit about how you each got involved in the film. Is it a good story?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Davina's story is much richer than mine. So she
Davina, you can start.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming.
It's great to be here. The film started for me with my kids discovering Judy Blume for the very first time. I'd been a huge fan as a kid, but hadn't thought a lot about it in 25, 30 years. And then about 5 years ago, I was on a road trip, very long road trip to Nova Scotia with my family. And we had instituted a no iPad rule, which was a terrible idea. But we started playing audiobooks, and I decided kind of on a whim to play Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. And when I hit play, I discovered that Judy narrates it herself. And she's got just such a beautiful, effervescent voice. And the kids fell in love with it. And I had like almost a visceral reaction, I think, to hearing that book again for the first time in so long, seeing how my kids responded to it, and then realizing like there's a person behind these characters.
Right.
And I suddenly just wanted to know everything I could about Judy.
Wow. I want to ask, how many people here have read Judy Blume? Yeah, pretty much everyone. Okay. And how did you get involved?
I came on later. So once the project had sort of gotten greenlit and Davina was already on, they came to me and asked me to be a producer, and I was very excited. I was a huge Judy Blume fan. I read all her books, and I just felt like this, and I'm also obsessed with that time period of kids on the cusp. I just think that's a really rich time period, and I feel like I'm kind of stuck there, even though I'm way older than that. So I just jumped at the chance. I was like, this is going to be incredible, and and it was an incredible journey to go on.
And it took you a while to get Judy to agree to do this. Like, how long?
Almost 2 years.
And you had to reach out to her, email her constantly, talk to her. Like, how did you, I mean, she's such a natural, but she was very reluctant.
She
So
was.
talk a little bit about why you think that and how you got to her to agree.
I see one friend here who probably heard me talk about it through those 2 years. Yeah, it's always a process, right? But Judy's first, I wrote a Dear Judy letter, like so many before me have, sent her an email, and her initial response was, thank you for your warm email. I am tempted, but I'm just not sure. I want to open my life to documentary right now. I love my bookstore. I have a busy life, and I'm not sure. But she never said no.
Right.
And I've always felt like the door was open, so we stayed in touch over about a year and a half, got to know each other, and then finally got to meet in person. And it was still a maybe. And then I realized I needed institutional support, that doing this on my own as an independent filmmaker wasn't quite going to seal the deal. And I had a relationship with Sarah Bernstein, who runs Imagine Documentaries, and I just had a hunch that she would be, she's a Jersey girl, she's my age. I had a hunch that she would be interested in this idea, so I took it to her, and Imagine came on, and together we convinced Judy finally to say yes in February 2020.
Oh, yeah.
So you know what happens after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I read in the notes that it was like a good time in some way, because then you could spend your time really deepening your knowledge about Judy during the pandemic until you could shoot.
There's so much to learn about Judy. You read all her books, and as Davina said, you know her books, but you don't know who she is. And there's so much archival. And then she wrote 29 books. Now, I didn't read all 29, so you're reading all her books, and there's just a lot to dive into. And it really takes you back also to that place when you were a kid. So it's just this this whole thing.
She feels like a kid still, too.
He's got a childlike magic.
And those blue glasses, too, right?
I know. Yeah.
So what I loved so much about this movie was how you used the letters from the kids. So talk a little bit about how you came to that device of kind of the through line using the letters.
Somewhere during those 2 years of talking to Judy, I found out that her archive was at Yale, and I went to the library just to take a peek at what was there. I'd heard about the letters. Judy published a book of letters. We don't get into it in the film, but there is a published book of letters where she's changed any identifying details to protect the letter writers, but there is a collection of letters that's been published. But I wanted to see the letters myself, so I went to Yale, and as soon as I saw what was there, it was just so much more than I could have imagined. It's extraordinary. There are boxes upon boxes upon boxes, organized by subject matter, everything from, I hate my sibling to the most serious, intense things that kids were going through. So once we knew that was there, we knew that the letter writers were going to become almost like a character of their own in the film.
And how did you make the decision to reach out to the letter writers?
So we went to Judy for help because there's a huge privacy clause. We couldn't just look at these letters and reach out to people. So we asked Judy who she thought would be appropriate or amenable to speaking with us. And she had a couple people who she had maintained long-term relationships with. And she reached out to them and said, would it be okay? And so we started reaching out to Lori. I think right away, Davina and Leah fell in love with Lori and her letters. And Judy had suggested Lori. She's just such an incredible character. And then, she named a couple people, and we reached out to them, and the two women in there were the people who agreed, and we formed that relationship with.
There's this quote, I don't know exactly where it was, from the press notes, and it was like, it was never just about the books, it was also about the people who experienced them, how they experienced them, and their own coming of age. Her stuff is so relatable, boys, girls, different ethnic groups, people, people of color, white people. There are not a lot of books that transcend that in that way. And on your journey, I know you're just at the beginning of the journey of the film, Sundance and stuff like that. What have you guys learned about people, what Judy meant to them, if you have any answer to that? Did that question make sense? Okay.
I'll just speak. I was surprised of all the different ages of people and also the force of the emotional response. People, men, women, younger, like kids being really, really moved. And there was this woman at Sundance. She was a young woman. I don't remember exactly where she grew up, but she had grown up in a country that didn't allow her the possibility to read this, and she said she didn't know about her body, and she didn't know these things, and she was giving her, and she was a young woman, she was giving these books to her daughter now, and that was really, that really made a big impact, and she was, very emotional about it, so I think I was a surprise to the extent of that, yeah.
Did you want to answer that too?
It's interesting because I feel like kids today have so many more choices about what they read. I think Judy still resonates for a lot of them, but they can also, I feel like there's such a wider range of voices writing for kids today, and that's wonderful and really important.
Because of Judy.
In part because of Judy, and kids are able to, find the emotional resonance in her work, and also maybe find their experience reflected in someone else's book, and they have both of those options, which is pretty incredible.
What did you learn about Judy from her or about her that really surprised you?
There are several things, and this is a little it's not that deep, but I was just in love with her relationship with George. I was like, what is this? This is like the template to the perfect marriage. They just, I guess third time's a charm. But they just were so in love, and I think that was really inspiring and charming, and also I think just how down to earth she was and how much she still maintained this sort of like childlike quality of wonder and curiosity and affiliation with like children, young people was really present when we were around her.
Yeah.
You fall under her spell a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew her books were censored when I was growing up.
Right.
I
I
grew up in
didn't know that
Toronto. I had access to all the books, except Forever. I never read Forever, and I think somebody hid it from me because that's the only Judy Blume book I didn't read. But until I started researching this project, I did not. I guess I was young enough at that point that those years just kind of slid by me without me realizing what was going on, and that was a huge surprise. And it's
It's coming back
it's
again.
coming back. It makes our blood boil.
Yeah. I'm sure this is a coincidence, but like there's a fictional film of Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret opening next month, and then your film. I mean, that's amazing. Like that we can like go see, Judy's film and then watch about Judy's life. Like, did you know that was happening, or like what? How do we tag team them together? Have people go from one, and then they can go home and watch on Amazon afterwards. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think Kelly Freeman Craig, who directed the Margaret movie, was writing to Judy at the same time I was writing to Judy. It was all sort of happening at once. And what Judy says, which I think is very true, is that these kids who grew up reading her books are now in positions of power, able to make decisions about these projects, and they're making them happen. I think that's part of it. And then the other part of it is that Judy herself has decided that she's ready to do all this.
Is this the first movie about Judy's book that's been made? Judy's books that have been made into a movie?
No, there was, but the first big one,
Right. There's like a wifey anthology or some weird
there was
thing,
like
right?
a Forever movie
Okay.
that was made in like the 80s, but this is like a big Hollywood film.
Yeah.
Judy's son Larry adapted Tiger Eyes.
Judy's. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't too long ago either. That was like 5-6 years ago.
Like mid 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we can still find that, right? So, why do you think Judy is just so enduring? Like, what is it about Judy? I know there's probably no answer. I mean, she's special. Like, you see that movie, you're just like, wow, okay, I get it.
I can guess. I'll just guess. I think she struck a chord at a certain time. She started writing in 1970, and I think that was a time period, like the librarian said, where the inner lives of children and girls weren't given respect, and she sort of opened that door and sort of wrote for children. Like, I remember reading the books I had to read, and then I was like, ooh, Judy Blume books are mine. And I think that struck a chord, and they're so readable. And then I think they got, they were massively consumed, and then I think parents and moms passed them on to their kids, and it just continued. And I think her characters are really relatable, and there is an authenticity there that really resonates and endures.
And feminism probably in the 70s and stuff. Mm-hmm. People were okay with reading these kinds of things. Did you want to answer that?
I was going to say that she remembers everything about her childhood, and I think, not only does she remember, we went to her house, the house she grew up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and she was looking out the window, and she named every single person on the block and which house they lived in, and she remembered all of that. But it's not just those details that she remembers what it felt like, whatever it is, like feeling like your parents aren't listening to you, or your sibling being annoying, or what it's like to want to get your, any of it. So, and she put those feelings into her books in a way that I think struck a chord in a way that that's hard to do.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? We have some mics over here. Go to the mic. Much better.
Hi. First of all,
Hi.
Thank you so much for this. As we saw in such a deeper way what a feminist that Judy was at a time when that was not even probably what she would have called herself. And I just sort of wanted to answer to your question. I think what I got from it in not being able to talk to her mother. And even I have the most amazing, strong Asian mom who was really open with me on so many things, but didn't say it to me till I was probably 22 or 23. If you want to talk about sex, we can. And I was like, Mom, it's a little late. That ship has sailed. So I think maybe just having like a parent you could talk to that's not your parent. I mean, she does sort of say that. But I think also someone to talk about the things that we weren't supposed to talk about, and stripping the shame away, I think, is what makes it so universal, because we all know what it is to have shame. We don't have to be a girl. I still feel like a 15-year-old girl in a lot of ways, but I think there's an authenticity that she has because she's willing to go there that hopefully gives all of us courage. So I just wanted to thank you, ladies at the helm, for pushing her to do this, because in her vulnerability, she really gives all of us the courage to be vulnerable, and I just very much appreciate.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's her honesty.
I just wanted to say thank you, ladies. I'm up here from Florida, where 2 weeks ago our governor wanted all the girls who wanted to play sports in public schools to reveal the dates of their menstrual periods. So it's still going on, and all of her books, well, not all of them, but many of them have been banned in my county. So my question, and I do have one, is this film going to be distributed? Have you gotten distribution? Because I would like to have a lot of the folks down in Florida be able to see it.
What's that? Oh, someone's phone.
It does have distribution. It's going to be on Amazon on April 21st. So it will have hopefully a wide audience.
Global, right?
Global. Yeah.
Amazon Prime, yeah.
Yeah, Amazon.
We are hoping to have more screenings. We're going to Miami tomorrow, but what county are you in? Because we are hoping to have more screenings in Florida. Yeah, okay.
Anyone else have a question, comment? Right here?
Thanks. First of all, bravo, bravo, bravo. It's just a great film. I'm very proud of you. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I am just a little older than a generation that would have read Judy Blume, but I wish I wasn't for a lot of reasons. But anyway, great film, and I forget what. Oh yes, I wanted to know. The letters are so amazing, and there are so many of them. I'm just wondering, did she catalog everything herself, or does she have assistants who help her with this stuff, or what? Because that's mammoth.
I think I don't know, Yale took them and kept them sort of in the organizational way that she left them. I would love like somebody with like super organizational skills to get in there and like catalog them a little bit further, but they were kind of grouped. They were grouped loosely in by year, I think, and by subject matter, but like there were so many of them.
Like how many?
Thousands and thousands and thousands. And so, I think ultimately it would be great if they could be scanned and then there would be an ability to search, word search, but that's not, yeah.
Actually, an amazing historical record of children's thoughts and feelings
Yeah,
over this 20, 30-year period.
definitely.
They're an incredible resource.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, this was something I think Davina and the other director and me eventually fell in love with, is the handwriting. And, there's such a vulnerability and tangible quality to these kids who are writing like their deepest, darkest, thoughts and feelings, some really grim, but they're like bubbly handwriting, or like a C-3PO, or like a unicorn. Like it's just that they're beautiful to look at.
And nobody really writes anymore either.
No.
So you lose that kind of
Yeah.
like intimacy.
Yeah, it's very
With an email.
intimate. Yeah.
I, at the archives? That must be closed archives. You must need a permission, right?
Yeah, you have to speak to like the Yale archivist, and you have to sign something like that's like a specific thing saying that you're not going to take any pictures and you're not going to reveal anything, and you can't reach out to any of these people or do anything with these letters. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're pretty protective, as is Judy. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, we got a last question here. We have a bunch of teens here. We have a teen immersive for the first year at Athena, so we're super excited to have them come here.
Hi, thank you. It was so good. I loved it.
Thank you.
I was just wondering how, because it seemed like there was so much of her life to tell, like how you decided what parts of her story to include and what parts like not to put in the movie.
Yeah, and what'd you leave on the cutting room floor?
It was hard.
It was hard. So we talked a lot amongst my co-director Leah and our editing team and Marcella about that exact question, because there's the 29 books. You don't want it to become encyclopedic and go from book to book to book to book, but we wanted to make sure to cover what we felt like were the most important books, and also the books that really intersected with Judy's life in some ways. So it was sort of thinking of it as sort of a conversation between Judy's life and Judy's books. So like, what can you learn about Judy's life from the books, and then what were the books telling us about her life? So finding those points of connection between the books and her life is sort of what helped us narrow down.
And I think we also knew we wanted to talk about censorship in the past and in the present, and so I think that was a big thing that we wanted to put in there as well.
Great question. So I think we're going to close it, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
April 21st on Amazon Prime. And I think like the 28th for Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. And then the week after that, Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. It's in the theaters, so we all have to go support that. Woman director. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks all for coming.
Good night, all. Oh, congratulations.